Welcome to another session of You Don't Know What You Don't Know. How are you this morning, Trevor?
I am absolutely fantastic, Roland, and I'm enjoying all the sunshine here up in the Gold Coast, and my new internet, and all these great, wonderful things are happening today. And it looks like all my emails and all those things that I sent, all the messages and that about the calendar invite have got out, because we've got some new people on the call that we haven't seen before. So those of you who have never been to one of our sessions, welcome along to today's session, which I'm very, very excited about.
Fantastic. And today, Trevor, we're really going to be continuing our journey on SharePoint. So today we're going to be looking particularly at SharePoint client sites. So for those in small, medium practices, the sites that we've been looking at setting up for the different clients. And we also spoke a bit about permissions last week and sharing externally, making sure that we have the right set of permissions. Guys, it's very much a case of measure twice, cut once when we're looking at permissions and sharing stuff. You want to make sure that all of your permissions are set correctly, and the rule of thumb is the least possible permissions apply. So what that means is you give someone the least possible permissions you can for them to do the job. You don't give them full control of everything if that is not the permission that they require. So permissions always add up if you've got permissions from different groups, but you try and give people the least possible permissions required to do the job. And Trevor, you've been working this week on surveys, looking at how to do some tax information on surveys. Help me understand that.
Jumped into, but when we firstly with SharePoints and client sites and so forth like that, they are, for everybody else in the call, client portals are what the accounting industry and our SMPs know them as. What you're talking there, Roland, exactly about. It's like, so many people want to communicate and with their clients so that we can get information back and forth, but you've got to be really, really careful with the permission. So we're going to cover that off in a lot of detail, and we'll be hitting that home today. And because I wasn't given as much permission on the HubOne side as I'd like to before, I've created my own site in the recent weeks, and I've got a lot more access than I've had previously. And I found this thing called surveys and started creating surveys and tax return questionnaires using surveys, and it's an amazing bit of technology that's available for everybody who's got Office 365. So we'll be showing you how to do that today as well.
Exactly. I've been using surveys in SharePoint because this is essentially SharePoint. When we're looking at client sites and the OnePractice portal, I've been using surveys since SharePoint 2007. Incredibly powerful. I see people go to SurveyMonkey for surveys, and I'm like, but you own SharePoint. Yeah, but SurveyMonkey is great. But I'm like, but you've got SharePoint, so you can just use that, and then you're storing everything internally, and you're not having a third party take answers to questions that you're asking your customers or your staff. So a really powerful thing. So when we talk about the modern practice portal, really, this is HubOne's subscription technology that most of the people on the call and our subscribers of the 130 odd firms that subscribe to the solution utilize. And really, this is augmenting the functionality of SharePoint. So we extend SharePoint Online, make it easier to use, and have automated processes and systems for accountants. Okay, so the modern practice is sitting on SharePoint, right, Trevor?
Exactly. And we'll go through and show you that in a minute, but it's all based on in and around SharePoint, and you just need to understand how to use SharePoint, and it really starts to make sense and flows really easily from there.
Exactly. So we just want to get the best use of the tools. So the modern practice is a set of tools and automation, really. So Trev, you wanted to do a couple of demos today?
I will. We'll go through a couple of things, but we've got the document center is the convenient. It's where you store your client documents. So it's a SharePoint site in its own right, and that's where we store all of our client documents. And then so we then we let our team into those areas, and we want to be careful that we're only letting our team. So permissions and security and all that is really important. But there's so many things you can do within the document center. Create documents, work on, collaborate together, and then you get all your other tools that are the HubOne tools, being Template Manager, Scan Document Manager, and Mail Manager, which are ways to get the documents into your document center really easily and effectively.
So I can do a lot of things in the document center, but I don't want to be sharing in the document center, right?
Not your client, not with your clients, because
I want to be sharing internally, but not externally in the document center. Sorry, I didn't articulate that clearly. So that's, guys, this is important. We've been talking about sharing. We've been talking about permissions. We don't want to go start sharing the stuff from the document center. If we wanted to have something exposed to a client through a client portal, that would be another area of SharePoint. We may take content from the document center either manually or alternatively automated through a workflow. So, Trevor, if I wanted to have a copy of what type of documents would you want to share with me as an accountant if I was a customer?
As an accountant, I might say, for example, you've got a company, your certificate of incorporation. So I've got that stored in my system, but I want to have that easy for you to access so that you're not ringing me up and saying, Trevor, can I get a copy of my certificate of incorporation? Don't know where I've put it, and I've got to set up something with my account. I've got to go and open up a new bank account. And I can say, it's in your client portal, Roland, and you can go in there and go and grab a copy of that at any time you like. So they're the sort of things that we want to do with it. We also want to start thinking about documents for getting documents signed, because, email is not the most secure place to go and send documents across. And we've got, tax returns and all of those sort of things. We need to think about how we want to send that information back and forth in more of a secure environment.
All right, so we're not sharing within the document center, but we're using it as our central point of truth, our single point of truth, our spot for all of our other content. All right, then talk to me about client sites now.
So client sites is a sub-site, and we're going to show you in a minute how we create those. It is just another SharePoint site, but what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we have the permissions to restrict access. Not only do we want clients going into our document center, we also want to make sure that we've got those permissions right, that we don't go and give our clients access to each other's sites, because then you've defeated the whole purpose of it. So it's really easy to do, but we need to understand it properly so that we don't accidentally make mistakes with it. We can style those sites how to get the look and feel that we want. We can put our branding in there, and we're going to go through that from start to finish today so you can see it. It's a place where you can create folders, and your clients can go and access those folders and upload documents into the folders. And they can also give them access to other documents. For example, like we said before, copies of deeds, copies of documents, copies of prior year returns, so that they can go and get that information easily. And we can collaborate together on those documents as well. So we might have a spreadsheet that we can want to work on together. This is the great place to go and put it into, share it with your client, and you can work on those documents together. Like it in your document center, and like you're working with your team, but it's working with your clients in that same environment.
Oh, fantastic. So really, when I'm looking at client sites, Trev, this is the aspect that we look at to replace the Dropbox functionality that a lot of our customers could be using at the moment when they want to share stuff with their clients. So as the SMP wants to share stuff with their clients, they take it out of SharePoint and often put it in a Dropbox environment. Here, I am keeping my intellectual property within my organization, but it's really, guys, if you're old school, you would have probably called this an extranet in the old days, where you were sharing part of your intranet with your partners. And what we want to do is we want to make people, make sure that people authenticate, so we know who is accessing it, and only authenticated users can access it. So when we're looking at the Microsoft account, they need to access it in the same way that if you shared something securely in Dropbox, somebody would need a particular account or authentication methodology to access it. Here I'm looking at a Microsoft account, so I can use Office 365, an Outlook.com, Windows Live, Hotmail, Xbox account, but I must authenticate in some way. Last week we spoke about external sharing, and we'll cover it again later, but we can share anonymously or through authentication, and we must have some type of account that they can log in with.
Yeah, so Roland, really, one of the things that feedback I get from the accountants out there is they find this really difficult, and they find it really difficult to explain to their clients why they need to have a Outlook.com or a Windows Live account, and the instructions they get. So we're going to go through from start to finish this whole process today.
Yes.
But explain. I think we've really got to go through that process
Yeah.
of authentication so that we can look at that.
If we want to share the right information with the right person, a key tenet of that is finding out that that right person is that person. Therefore, how do I know who they say they are? I could try and log on as Trevor. The only reason why it would say you are Trevor is because I put Trevor's password in there, right? So if I want to give the right information to the right person, I need a way of finding out that person is who they say they are, and that is generally termed authentication. In the same way, when you go to the ATM to draw money, you put in your card, and then it says, right, I can see you've got the card, but are you that person? Because that person's got a secret 4-digit PIN, which I then punch into the ATM. This is exactly the same thing. So we are sharing intellectual property or secure information. We need them to have a PIN. And in this case, because Office 365 is a Microsoft service, we are just asking them to authenticate through some type of Microsoft service. If you do it on Dropbox, if you do it on Google Drive, you've got to get a Google account.
Yeah.
You've got to get a Gmail account.
If they had, let's forget about Google, let's say they had a Big Pond account, right?
Yeah.
So they've got a Big Pond account, and that's their email address that they use to go and get all their emails and so forth. And I send them an invite to this, and it goes to their Big Pond account, and they go to log in. It says, well, we need to authenticate you, so therefore can you set up a Windows Live account or something like that so that we know who you are. Once they've done that, can they continue to log in with their Big Pond account, or do they have to always log in with their Windows Live account?
Sorry, Trevor. I was busy typing an IM there.
Okay.
So I was busy answering a question in the IM simultaneously. My humblest apologies. So if they authenticate, they've got a Big Pond account. They authenticate against. You send it to their Big Pond account, and then they create an Office Live account and use the Office Live account to access it. Can they, at a later stage, use the Big Pond account to authenticate against Office 365?
Or to log into their portal, their client portal?
No.
No, they need to log in with their Hotmail account.
They've got to log in with their Hotmail account. Sorry, because what's going to happen, and Tristan is typing in the window here, but what's going to happen is they are going to get a token, almost like a ticket, from Office 365 or Live or Outlook saying, I have authenticated you. Then your request for the file is going to go along with that ticket. Like the way your request is, get me that file, your ticket's going to be put with that request. It's often called a cookie. All you guys have heard of cookies out there, right? So this is like a cookie. You go to the file and you say, I want that file. And it says, aha, I can see that Outlook has authenticated you.
Yeah. But realistically, the Office 365, the Outlook.com, the Windows Live account, the Hotmail account, the Xbox account is your username.
Yeah.
That's all we've got to think of it. That's your username. Yeah. And your password is set like that. And if you forget your password, you just go through Office 365, and that sets that through from there.
It's like a bank card and your PIN number, your username and your password. That's how you get through. So, guys, do you want to share stuff totally unsecurely? You could do that. We could do the anonymous, but that's not our best practice. And this is why we're stressing this, because we don't want people to be sharing stuff not using best practices just haphazardly. So, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, we spoke about the fact that I could set permissions for people on a site level. I could set them on a folder or a document library level. I could even set them on an individual file. I could give you permissions for an individual file, okay? Now, that's not the best practices when we're sharing externally. The best practices is to give permissions at the site level. And then we can further tweak the permissions on the folder or on the file if we need to. But for simplicity's sake, assigning permissions to the client site. So, Trevor, you're going to create a client site now.
Yep.
For the Leggett Family Trust, I think we said we were going to do. For myself, Trevor's going to create a client site, and he's going to set permissions on that site level for me. Okay?
Yep.
All right.
So I'm going to share my screen.
Okay. So this is what we're talking about, setting permissions at the different levels. So you can share your screen. There's a big debate going on in the IM window. That's great. I love all the interaction. Please feel free to pipe in there. Guys, if we want to collaborate on this. So Bobby's typing, Jacinta, Andrew, Tristan. Thank you, guys.
No one wants another account to remember. That's
I
a good
do
point.
understand this, but guys, it's a security versus enablement. Do I want to enable it? There's always going to be that balance, okay, between security versus enablement. I can enable everybody in the world to access it. That's not what we want.
No.
Enablement's easy to do. I'll just remove. Nobody needs a password. That's great enablement. Can I get access to the machine? Sure. There's no password. That's not secure, guys. And so this is the line we walk, and this is why we're stressing so much to try and articulate this to your clients, so that you can have this discussion and be able to help them understand why we're doing what we're doing. All right, Trevor, that's all you.
Okay, I'm going to go over to that. Tristan and the guys keep communicating on the other side, answering a few of those questions there, because there's some really cool things on the other screen going on. So let's jump in. So we're in our OnePractice portal, which I've accessed. I know I'm in the right spot. Just so everybody knows, turnitonAccountants.sharepoint.com is my client site, my Modern Practice portal. I then go to my client sites, and that's the tab in the middle. Now, nobody's really been using this, and then I can see where I'm at. So what I want to do is click on Site Contents. Site Contents is where I can create my new sub-site. So I've already created one for you, Roland, but I'm going to create another one for the Shoemaker family, and then I'll invite you into that so that we can see that whole process. So the title of my site is going to be called Shoemaker Family, and then we can add description if we want to, things like that. The URL is just going to be what the web address effectively is for that site. So I click on that.
Yeah, the shorter and simpler, the better for the URL. Every time you have a space in the actual URL, it'll put like a % 20 is the symbol for a space. So if you wonder why you got a bunch of % 20s in the URL, it's because you called it Shoemaker space, family space, trust space, that I like space, something like that. Okay.
Excellent. So I know I just want to have something nice and easy, because that's what our clients are going to get used to. So yeah, but they're going to be clicking on these links to get there. Yeah. Then we've got our team site. And we're going to make it a team site, not a blog, not a project site, not a community site. And then when we get really advanced with this, we can start creating templates and using one as a template to go forward. Then we get our permissions. Yes. So the user permissions are the same permissions as the parent site. We don't want to do that, because if we set up our parent site permissions, we're going to give them access to our entire site. So we don't want to have that. We want to have unique permissions and manage those permissions as we're going through. Then we get a couple of options on navigation. What does it look and feel? Client sites, you're going to have lots of client sites. You're going to have one for each client. So we want to navigate down the left-hand side. It's a lot easier to work with.
Okay.
We don't want to have it across the top bar, because that's difficult. It's going horizontal. So down the left-hand side is just a lot easier.
So you're telling me that if we've got a lot of client names right across the top of the screen, I will have to scroll my entire screen from left to right to get the clients.
To get to the client.
Okay, so if they are just down the left-hand side of the screen in the quick launch bar, it'll be easier to navigate.
Exactly.
Now, let's go. Can I go back to that permissions thing just to stress this? Okay.
Yeah.
So if you select use the same permissions as the parent site, okay, the permissions are going to flow down to the child site. This is the default. All right. But in some cases, we want to separate the site off as its own entity. Now, some people may end up being locked out of the site that had permissions to the parent site, so we've got to make sure that we create groups correctly in this scenario. And normally what we'll do is we'll put accounts into groups and then assign permissions to those groups. So this is the best practices. Account into group. I've just typed it in the IM window, then assign permissions to the groups. So guys, this takes planning. This is not, normally we give you a thing to do every week. This is not on your list of things to do this week, okay? This takes some planning, measure twice, cut once.
we're going to break off into some other training on this. This is to get you thinking about how you can use it, but it's also to stress. Don't jump in and make mistakes and give people access and
overshare,
all of those sort of things, and overshare. We don't want to overshare. Is not caring.
Yep.
Okay, so navigation inheritance, Roland. So we've got use the top link from the parent site. Now this is this helps you navigate around the site. So we don't want to have our clients that are in there and seeing the navigation screen of all your other clients. So we say no for this, and that's basically what it is.
They could navigate up into the parent site, which is essentially our internal corporate site. And then navigate down elsewhere. So we don't want to do that. We want to even remove, even if they don't have permissions to go up, we want to remove the temptation.
Yeah.
Monkey see, monkey walk.
This is the breadcrumbs, isn't it, Roland?
Yeah.
When we all call them breadcrumbs and Hansel and Gretel and all that. This is removing those breadcrumbs so that the clients don't go hunting around where they shouldn't be.
Exactly.
Okay, so now I've created my site. Easily done. And once I've created my site, I can then start to manage that. But we then can create a template, and we can talk about those, but we want to just do the first one so you can see exactly what happens with it.
Yep.
So it's going to create, probably takes a little bit of time. There we go. So now it's been set up, and now I've got to set my groups up for this site. So I'm going to create a new group.
Block permissions, guys. So this is why we've got to start setting up, visitors to the site, members and owners, those 3 groups. Sorry, Trevor.
Yeah, no, go for it. That's why you're here, and I'm just pushing the buttons. So we're going to create a new group for the visitors. So this is for where our clients come into. That's where we're going to set the permissions up. And in this case, Roland, what was that email address that I wanted to send to you to go and Rolly?
Leggett, Legat.
Yep.
At hotmail.com. Sorry, outlook.com. I'm lying. Outlook.com. I killed the other.
Excellent. So I'm going to add you into this group, and I could add other family members and all of those sort of things into that group, so they can all come in and have a look at it. Then members of this site, I would just say I would use an existing group, wouldn't I?
You could use an existing group, or you could add members in there. So for you're a member and an owner. Visitors are going to have read. Members are going to have read write. Owners are going to have full control.
Yeah.
So just something up there. We haven't actually put that account into the directory, so it's not resolving that particular account at the moment. So it may split the dummy on that one for us when we click OK there, Trevor. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, this one here.
Yeah,
I add you in later, not do it now.
Not do it now. We're going to do it later. Yeah.
Okay.
Best practice is to do it later.
Do I leave those family members groups? And
that's fine. You are the only one working on the site, but what we would normally do is then add other users' accounts, go into groups, and those groups have permissions assigned to them. So perfect.
So just click OK. And I've created my site. Now, it doesn't look all that cool here, but in this place, I can share my site with you, Roland.
Yep.
From here, and I can send it through now to Rolly, Leggett. Outlook.com.
Yep, perfect.
And we want to build up a bit of a standard message that we send out. Hi, Roland. This is your blah blah blah. Link through from there. Now, if I send it through to a Gmail account, we probably won't cover it off. But I could send it through to a Gmail account, but then it's going to ask you to authenticate yourself with an Outlook account. Is that correct?
Exactly. Yeah. So what will happen is whenever you get challenged with authentication in a browser, right? So you go to a website, and the website says, you need to log in here. All right. What your browser does is it looks in this little bag that it carries around. It's got like a bag of cookies, and it looks in its bag of cookies and says, if I throw one of these cookies at that authentication monster, will it allow me access? Okay. So it'll try have my Google cookie, and the Microsoft engine will say, no, man, that Google cookie won't work. What I need is a Microsoft cookie. It says, I don't have a Microsoft cookie. Well, then you've got to create one, which is creating an account.
Yep.
Okay. So that's a challenge authentication. Give me something to authenticate you. Yes. Sorry. Go ahead.
I won't invite you into this one because I've set another one up before. But before I jump over to your site where I can go and invite you into, what I've done there is I can change the look and feel and so forth of the site from within these settings. So I can make it look differently. I can add different colors. I can actually make it work specifically for Roland because I know he loves red and black. And I can put all those things in there. I don't know why you like that.
I don't know either.
And we can put our logo in and all of those sort of things on that point. But But what I'll do is I'm just going to go back into SharePoint, just so everybody understands while that's going on. This is back into my SharePoint area, and I can see that I've got a whole heap of sites. I've got my document center, I've got my Leggett family, I've got the Beaujart family, and I can also set them as following. So this is part of the new user interface, where it's really easy to get around and see these things. So the team site, the OnePractice portal site, the client sites, and the document center are all part of the Modern Practice portal. So I can click on client sites, or I can quickly go to the Leggett family to go and have a look at what's in the client sites. So if I just show you that the process here, client sites, and then on the left-hand side, you can see that Shoemaker's family one has turned up, as we talked about, as sub-sites, and I can go to the Leggett family within here. Now, in here, I've created a few things. So first thing, I'm communicating with Roland. I can have news feeds where he can communicate with him, and I can send him emails. And you can do these as bulk news feeds across all of your sites. Is that correct, Roland?
You can put the news feeds in there. It's essentially a link to a discussion. So what people often do is you can also put Yammer feeds in there, actually, because there's a little bit of an overlap in my mind between what's done in Yammer and what's done in SharePoint news feeds. So they're both a social thing. So, you could share them across sites, or you could embed a news feed in there. That's a little bit complicated for this. Trev, talk to me about those surveys you were doing. We can have a look at those.
I'll come to those in a second. Before we get to those, as you can see in this site, Roland's sites, I've got some different colors for him. I've got my logo in the left-hand corner, so I'm getting my branding, and I've got my folders that I want to communicate with that. So when you're doing that, you need to think about these folders. So we've got, for me, I've said corporate and trust documents. So I'll go and put a copy of all of Roland's corporate and trust documents in there, so that he can go and download them or read them. Now we make them read only, so that you can download and work on those areas. So we'd set the permissions on that particular folder to, when I share that with Roland, I'd set those permissions to match that. Then I might have a client document upload center where I'm going to say, Roland, this is where, if you've got documents, don't email them to me. Go in here and upload your documents in there. And I can set folders up for every year. So I can say, well, 2016 folders for you, and then we could put Michelle's in there, and we can do all of those sort of things where you can upload your documents rather than emailing those secure documents into the various, using email, which isn't secure. And at the end of the day, I can put, when I've finished everything, I can put a copy of your tax returns and financials so that you can go and access those when you need them. So rather than ringing me and saying, hey, Trev, can I get a copy of my financials for 2015? You can go in there and get a copy of your tax return at any one time, and I can put other communications. And just have a think about what you can put through from there.
So someone's asking questions. Can we email into a site? We can actually set up a mailbox on a site. So it depends. I've said, yes, you can email into a site, but that is called a site mailbox. It's like a shared mailbox. Okay, so it's one of the things we can add to the site. Now, Trev, we've only got a couple of minutes left.
Just really quickly, so everybody can see everything that's in here. So in there's where you can add a site mailbox. So if you're doing lots of communication with that, that's where you go and add that site mailbox, and that will create Leggett family at turniton.accountants.com.au. So it'll set up
and it's a shared mailbox, guys, much like when you email support@HubOne.com. Multiple people on Tristan's team can have simultaneous access to that mailbox. So, it's just a shared mailbox. And when we talk about all the things we can do in SharePoint, what Trevor's showing you there is some of the business functionality that's inherent within the product.
All right, and I'm just going to get to...
Are we going to have time for surveys? We're out of time today, Trevor. We might have to do surveys next week. I know there's such a lot of good
really
stuff
quickly. Really quickly,
right.
I'll just let me go and show everybody surveys.
We're going to run over today, people. Apologies. We've got to show surveys.
Just real quick look at it, and I think we'll expand on this next week, and we'll take it to the next level. So in here, we've got our personal income tax questionnaire. So in that part in Nick's, I've got it in Nick's, for example, he can respond to the survey, okay? And within the survey, he goes through a bunch of questions. Now, I'm just going to jump back to the survey just to show you the types of questions that I've been putting in there, and so you can see all the various questions. So I've got an instruction. I instruct Turniton to create the tax return. Have you changed your address? Put in, if you have, then we've got things where we say, have you changed your address? If you say yes, right, then add the address in. If you say no, don't do it again. You know, put in your occupation, put in your spouse's name. You know, I suppose we could say, have you changed your spouse? But that'll be a bit interesting. Did you receive bank? You know, we can put bank account details. So what you have is branching capabilities within here. So if you answer a question a certain way, it will jump to the next question that relates to it. So we're going to do some more details
based on the previous answer. It will select from multiple questions and then branch and stem you out there. So think of it as branches from a tree, guys. We get asked one question and then we get stuck out to a sub-branch of that question. So how many questions have you put in the survey, Trevor? This looks awesome, man.
These are the things that we need to do as accountants when we do your tax returns. We have to ask all these questions. Let's automate the process. Let's get the clients to do it before they come in, so that we're not sitting in front of you and going through all that stuff. We're finishing it off and speeding up the process and making the client experience even better.
So if our guys on the call who are on subscription, how do they, if they want to use some of your IP?
That's it. Bobby's just asked.
How can we get a copy? There's Bobby straight in. I love it.
Definitely anybody on subscription, if you're interested in this, just drop me a quick note either on this section or drop me an email that you'd like a copy of it. More importantly, you'd like some training on how to do it. Clients of ours on subscription, it's included in their subscription. Those of you not on subscription, I'll have a bit of a chat with you and we'll see if we can work something out.
They just email trevor@hubone.com.
Yeah, trevor@hubone.com. That's exactly
right.
Send me an email.
Yep, Tristan saying site creation can be automated. So one thing we are going to talk about, we didn't get a chance to cover today. What we could do is actually save that template and that whole structure that you've created. Save the survey and the whole structure you've created, Trevor, as a template. So where you chose team site earlier, you could actually have just chosen template client site.
Exactly.
And that would have had the survey, your folder structure, your permissions, and a whole bunch of content and intellectual property automatically built into a site. So you wouldn't have to go through that whole palaver for each client. You could have a template that would do it for you.
And as Tristan's saying, we can set up a workflow that will automatically create a client site for you. So we can do
fantastic. So I could use a template and then set up a workflow to initiate that template.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
And we're going to go into that, and so we're going to do a lot more on this over the next.
All right. So, guys, next week we were supposed to start with some Excel and Power Tools in Excel. We've been getting some requests for Power BI. However, this is probably one of the most interesting conversations we've had in the IM window out of all the sessions we've run. So just give me a yes in the IM window if you want to carry on with Trevor's customization of client sites in SharePoint next week. Please just type yes, 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 yes. All right, Trevor, next week is all you. The last slide in this deck talks about Power BI. We're not going to be doing Power BI or Excel next week. We are going to be doing surveys and client sites, taking them to the next level and then distributing out there. Guys, this is a bit of a collaboration thing. So if you've got ideas or input, inspirations that you would like Trevor to build into the content, okay, please contact him. The more we can work on this, the better, okay?
I'm at the coalface. I've got a tiny little accounting practice that I do for certain things, but I'm not really. I just saw Tristan's note. It makes me laugh, Pokemon Go. Every time I see something on Pokemon Go, I have a giggle. But you guys are at the coalface, and you've got more. So many clients that are there. So it's about automating those processes for you to make your business better, and use this technology. This technology is amazing. This Office 365 technology is just so powerful, and it's untapped, and we're just not using it enough.
Exactly. Okay, guys, by the way, there's some security assessments, and I've typed assessments wrong in there. There's some security assessments going on at the moment with regards to those security breaches we've had in Australia. We got some of our team calling you. So if you get a call from HubOne saying we want to do a security assessment, it could be Robbie or one of his team. It's not somebody trying to hack you or a phishing attack. I'm giving you the heads up now. Okay.
You're going to tell everybody really quickly about my phishing attack last week?
Yeah. You were very sharp, Trevor. You were onto it. It looked like it came from David. Good.
Yeah,
it was
so
well done, eh?
Friday night, at 10 o'clock, I get an email from David Hamilton, and his name is on there properly, David Hamilton. It was worded with broken English, so I thought he was drunk, but he was asking me to pay a bill on the other side. So that was how close it became personally from it. So I went back to him and said, "Are you okay? What's going on?" When the guy replied again, he wasn't smart enough to remove his fake email address, sarahsomebody.123@gmail.com. And I picked up on it and I went, oh, okay, I get what's going on here. And he was coming back with all these bank account details that he wanted me to put the money into, and it had to be done at midnight on Friday night. So
there's urgency. There's a fire. Guys, do not respond to that. Seriously, do not respond to any of those. They are all phishing attacks. They're going crazy at the moment in Australia. If in doubt, don't. If it looks remotely dodgy, pick up the phone, call the person who's supposedly asking you for money, and say, "Hey, I've got this email." Yeah. Awesome. Okay, Trev, that's us. We've run over today, but thank you very much, guys. We will be doing more client sites next week, okay? And if in doubt, log a support ticket. Tristan saying, talk to him. Guys, we handle this stuff all the time. Please be vigilant at the moment. Be vigilant. Thank you very much, everybody, and have a fantastic week. Thank you so much, Trevor, for all your great work and the interaction on the call. This is what we love, guys. Have a great one.
Don't forget to email me if you want that survey, and I'll get onto it all this week. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Bye.
See you guys. Bye-bye.